All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I'm Sunil Verma and with me is Tanvi Khurana. The headlines. Centre says augmenting availability of corona vaccine and completing vaccination of vulnerable groups are topmost priorities of the government. 150,000 doses of Sputnik 5 vaccine arrive in India. Russian Direct Investment Fund ties up with Indian companies for bulk production. Centre issues advisory on management of fungal infection among corona patients. Ayush Ministry adds 7 more centres for free distribution of Ayush 64 to COVID patients. Uttar Pradesh government to launch a massive vaccination drive of 18 to 44 age group today. Lockdowns and curfews extended in several states and union territories. Senior BJP leader Himanta Biswa Sarma to be sworn in as Chief Minister of Assam today. And in tennis, world number 6 Alexander Suarez beat Mateo Beretini to clinch his second Madrid Open title. As the number of COVID cases is on the rise, we appeal to our listeners to take all precautions and all those above 18 years of age to get vaccinated without any hesitation. The vaccination for persons of age between 18 and 44 has begun at designated facilities. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask. Maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing. Focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news. The centre has said that augmenting the availability of corona vaccine and completing vaccination of vulnerable groups are topmost priorities of the government. In an affidavit filed before Supreme Court, it said, COVID vaccine strategy of the government is formulated to address immediate, medium-term and long-term perspectives. On the immediate front, availability, augmentation and enhancement of vaccines and completing vaccination of vulnerable groups are the topmost priorities, the affidavit said. It said pricing of vaccines is an important issue in medium to long term and the government is making all efforts on national and international levels in this regard. The government filed the affidavit in a case pertaining to the Apex Court, taking suo motu cognizance on COVID-related issues. The case will come up for hearing before a 3-judge bench headed by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud today. Minister of State for Finance Anurag Thakur has said 1.5 lakh doses of Sputnik 5 have already reached India and Russian Direct Investment Fund has also tied up with local Indian companies for bulk production. In response to a letter written by Congress leader Mallikarjun Kharge to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Mr. Thakur elaborated measures taken by the centre to tackle the COVID pandemic. He said Indian Railways delivered 4,200 metric tons of liquid medical oxygen via 268 tankers to various states across the country. A total of 8 oxygen expresses have already completed their journey so far. Nearly 750 beds in various military hospitals have been set aside for civilian use. Mr. Thakur said, IF transport aircraft have carried out 50 sorties, airlifting 61 oxygen containers of 1,142 megaton capacity from abroad. That would be metric ton capacity from abroad. Naval ships Kolkata, Kochi, Tabar, Trikand, Jalashwa and Airavat have been deployed for shipment of liquid medical oxygen-filled cryogenic containers and associated medical equipment from various countries in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. The minister added that not only did NDA government double the allocation during the COVID period last year from 61,500 crore rupees to a historic high of over 1 lakh crore rupees, but also increased the wages to 202 rupees, thereby ensuring 300 crore person days of work in total.
The global community is extending a helping hand to support India's efforts to meet the challenges and requirements of the unprecedented surge in the number of COVID-19 cases in the second wave of global pandemic. The centre has been ensuring the global aid is being effectively and promptly allocated and delivered to states and union territories to supplement their efforts during this critical phase. The Union Health Ministry said over 6,738 oxygen concentrators, over 3,856 oxygen cylinders, 16 oxygen generation plants, over 4,668 ventilators or BAPAP or CPAP, and more than 3 lakh remdesivir vials have been delivered or dispatched so far. Israel has been sending emergency medical aid to India to bolster country's fight against COVID pandemic. An IAF flight carrying over 1,300 oxygen concentrators and over 400 respirators arrived from Israel last night. India has expressed heartfelt gratitude to Israel for this generous support. The first consignment of oxygen concentrators from Israel arrived in New Delhi on 5th of this month. Recently, an IAF aircraft carrying 3 oxygen generators and 360 oxygen concentrators also landed in India. Deputy Ambassador of Israel in India, Ronnie Yedidia Klein, spoke to AIR News about the vaccine trials ongoing in Israel.
It's really very early to talk about them. There are various discoveries and innovations by our doctors and scientific teams in Israel. Israel is known as a startup nation, and even in this crisis, we have had our bright minds working on new ways to overcome COVID and to overcome the symptoms of it.
The Deputy Ambassador also talked about the future of India-Israel bilateral partnership and called it a strong one.
We have been working very hard together with India in order to overcome this COVID crisis, and we hope that the partnership will continue in other fields as well. We have an ongoing partnership in water and in agriculture, innovation, security, and we've been working together for many years. It's a very strong and deep partnership, and I'm sure that will continue to be, it will strengthen even over the coming years.
An Indian Air Force IAF aircraft IL-76 airlifted 2 cryogenic oxygen containers from Jakarta, Indonesia, and landed at Andhra Pradesh's Visakhapatnam. An IF-C-17 is bringing 2 oxygen generators from Bordeaux, France, to the Hindon Air Base. Another C-17 is bringing zeolite respiratory oxygen raw material from Frankfurt to Mumbai. In India, C-17s airlifted 2 cryogenic oxygen containers from Hindon to Bhubaneswar and 4 from Hyderabad to Bhubaneswar. Other C-17s are bringing 8 cryogenic oxygen containers from Nagpur and Pune to Bhubaneswar and Jamnagar, 6 from Vijayawada to Bhubaneswar, 4 from Chandigarh to Ranchi, 5 from Agra and Lucknow to Jamnagar and Ranchi, and 5 from Gwalior to Ranchi. To help the country in its fight against COVID-19, Indian Navy tanker INS Airavat, carrying oxygen cylinders and medical supplies, will arrive in Visakhapatnam from Singapore today. INS Airavat will be carrying 8 20 tons empty cryogenic oxygen cylinders, 3,150 oxygen cylinders, 500 filled oxygen cylinders, 10,000 rapid antigen test kits, and 450 PPE kits. Earlier, IL-76 aircraft airlifted 3 cryogenic oxygen containers from Singapore and landed at Panagarh Air Base, West Bengal, on Friday. As India battles the second wave of coronavirus, several countries around the globe, including the US, the United Kingdom, and Russia, have extended support.
The Employees State Insurance Corporation, ESIC, under the Ministry of Labour and Employment, has installed oxygen generation plants at its 2 hospitals in Delhi NCR area. These include a 440 litres per minute LPM capacity plant at the ESIC Hospital and Medical College in Faridabad and another plant of 220 LPM capacity at ESIC Hospital in Jhilmil, New Delhi yesterday. The Labour Ministry said this will enable these hospitals to augment the availability of ICU and ventilator beds. The corporation is actively helping fight the battle against COVID-19 by quickly converting its 30 hospitals all over the country into COVID-dedicated facilities. These hospitals have around 4,200 beds, including 300 ICU beds and 250 ventilator beds. There are, at present, around 1,520 ESI dispensaries and 159 hospitals across the country, out of which 45 dispensaries and 49 hospitals are directly run by ESIC, while remaining dispensaries and hospitals are run by the respective state governments. The centre has issued an advisory on the management fungal infection among COVID patients. It said the fungal infection, mucormycosis, mainly affects people who are on medication that reduces their ability to fight environmental pathogens. The infection, being found in COVID-19 patients with uncontrolled diabetes and prolonged ICU stay, may turn fatal if uncared for, the centre said. The evidence-based advisory for screening, diagnosis and management of the disease was released by the Indian Council of Medical Research and the Union Health Ministry. Warning symptoms include pain and redness around eyes and nose, fever, headache, coughing, shortness of breath, bloody vomits and altered mental status, the advisory stated.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to the Chief Ministers of Punjab, Karnataka, Bihar and Uttarakhand on the COVID-related situation in their states. In the last few days, Mr. Modi has spoken to the Chief Ministers of other states over the issue and taken stock of the situation of health-related facilities and vaccination. They include Chief Ministers of Tamil Nadu, Jharkhand, Odisha, Telangana, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh and Sikkim. The government has said that 7 more centres will be opened in Delhi to distribute Ayush 64 to asymptomatic, mild and moderate COVID-19 patients from today. The Ayush Ministry said those COVID-19 patients who are in home isolation or staying at some government isolation centres can benefit from this initiative. It said the ministry has started free distribution of Ayush 64 at many locations in Delhi since Saturday. The 7 centres where Ayush 64 will be available are All India Institute of Ayurveda, Sarita, Bihar, Morarji Desai National Institute of Yoga, Ashoka Road, Regional Research Institute of Unani Medicine, Jamia Nagar, Okhla, Unani Medical Centre, Safdarjung Hospital, Unani Speciality Clinic, Dr. M.A. Ansari Health Centre, Jamia Millia Islamia, Central Ayurveda Research Institute, Punjabi Bagh, and Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Janakpuri. The Naturopathy Hospital of CCRYN in Sector 19 in Rohini will also start distributing free Ayush 64 from Wednesday. The ministry said patients or their representatives can visit these centres with a hard or soft copies of patient's RT-PCR positive report and Aadhaar card to get a free pack of Ayush 64 tablets. Apart from this, a sale counter is also set up at the reception of Ayush Bhavan GPO complex, where both Ayush 64 and Ayush Raksha kits are available.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Centre says augmenting availability of corona vaccine and completing vaccination of vulnerable groups are topmost priorities of the government. 150,000 doses of Sputnik V vaccine arrive in India. Russian Direct Investment Fund ties up with Indian companies for bulk production. Centre issues advisory on management of fungal infection among corona patients. Ayush Ministry adds 7 more centres for free distribution of Ayush 64 to COVID patients. Uttar Pradesh government to launch a massive vaccination drive of 18 to 44 age group today. Lockdowns and curfews extended in several states and union territories. Senior BJP leader Hemant Biswa Sharma to be sworn in as Chief Minister of Assam today. And in tennis, world number 6 Alexander Suarez beat Mateo Beretini to clinch his second Madrid Open title. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
India has administered more than 17 crore doses of COVID-19 vaccine in the country so far. These include over 95,46,000 healthcare workers who've taken the first dose and more than 64 lakh healthcare workers who've taken the second dose. Over 1 crore 39 lakh frontline workers have taken the first dose and more than 77 lakh frontline workers have taken the second dose. India had launched the world's largest vaccination drive on the 16th of January this year. The Union Health Ministry said that more than 6,71,000 beneficiaries were inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine doses yesterday. Over 3,86,000 people have recovered from COVID-19 infection in the last 24 hours. So far, over 1 crore 83 lakh people have recovered from the COVID-19 infection in the country. The cumulative share of active COVID cases in the country has declined to comprise nearly 16.76% of the total reported cases. The Health Ministry has said that currently over 37,36,000 people are reported to be suffering from the viral pandemic and are either hospitalized or under home isolation. In the last 24 hours, 4,03,738 new COVID-19 cases were registered in the country. With this, the recovery rate has further improved to stand at 82.15%.
The Haryana government has extended the lockdown up to 17th of May till 5 a.m. in the state. The lockdown imposed earlier was supposed to end at 5 this morning. Chairman of the Executive Committee of Haryana State Disaster Management Authority, Vijay Vardhan, said the restrictions imposed earlier will continue with some addition and substitutions. He said gathering of more than 11 persons in the marriages, funerals or cremations will not be allowed. In Uttar Pradesh, a massive corona vaccination drive will be initiated for 18 to 44 years age group from today. The drive will be conducted in 18 cities from today. More from our Lucknow correspondent.
In the age group of 18 to 44 years, more than 1,17,000 vaccines have been administered in the state. The vaccination for people in this age group started on May 1st for 7 districts in the state, namely Lucknow, Kanpur, Prayagraj, Varanasi, Gorakhpur, Meerut and Bareilly. From today, it will continue in 17 municipal corporations and Gautam Buddha Nagar. Yesterday only, state received 1,50,000 vaccine vials for the drive. Online registration for COVID vaccine has been made mandatory for all adults in the state. Earlier, the registration was mandatory only for all those between the age of 18 and 44 years. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
In Bihar, fresh COVID-19 cases are declining in the states. 11,259 positive cases reported during the last 24 hours, which is 1,689 less than the previous day. 13,364 infected people recovered yesterday. Recovery rate has risen to 80.36%, while positivity rate has declined from 16% to 10.31%. 1,67,000 people took the vaccine yesterday. 79,238 beneficiaries belong to the age group of 18 to 44 years.
Gujarat has recorded 11,084 new cases of COVID-19 yesterday. 14,770 patients recovered during the past 24 hours and were discharged from the hospitals. More from our Ahmedabad correspondent.
The recovery rate in Gujarat has improved and reached up to 78.27%. Maximum 2,883 new cases reported from Ahmedabad, while Suarez recorded 839 new cases. 121 patients lost their lives yesterday. With this, the death toll due to COVID-19 in the state has reached up to 8,394. Gujarat has now 1,39,614 active cases, out of which 786 patients are on ventilator. Meanwhile, 1,38,590 persons were vaccinated in the state yesterday. Now Gujarat has vaccinated more than 1 crore 35 lakh persons. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan has said that MOIL Limited, a government-owned company, will develop COVID care centres in 5 districts of Madhya Pradesh. Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan has said that Mr. Pradhan is providing all help to the state to overcome COVID crisis. Mr. Pradhan and MP Chief Minister were holding talks with the concerned officials through video conferencing. A report from our Bhopal correspondent.
Union Minister for Steel, Petroleum and Natural Gas, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, has said that well-equipped COVID care centers will be set up in Mandla, Dindori, Balaghat, Siuni and Narsingpur districts of Madhya Pradesh with oxygen lines, oxygen concentrators and ventilators through Moil Company. Union Minister Mr. Pradhan said that a bottling plant will also be started in Bina. Chief Minister Mr. Chauhan said that 11 PSA oxygen plants will get started in the state by the month of June. These plants are being set up at Devas, Dhar, Mandla, Hoshangabad, Panna, Damoh, Chhatarpur, Sidhi, Bhind, Rajgarh and Shajapur. Pooja P. Vardhan, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Chhattisgarh, journalists and lawyers and their family members will also be considered as frontline workers and will be given priority in COVID vaccination. More from our Raipur correspondent.
The Chhattisgarh government has decided that like health workers and policemen, now journalists, lawyers and their family members will also be considered as frontline workers. The state government has released a list of various people falling under the category of frontline workers based on the recommendation of the committee constituted under the chairmanship of the chief secretary. These include person with comorbidity, vegetable vendors, bus driver and conductors, Anganwadi workers, Mitanins, state government employees and employees of the state public sector undertaking and their immediate family members. People working in old age homes, women and child care centers as well as persons working in cremation centers and cemeteries have also been included in this list. The state government has also decided that the prisoners in jail will also be given priority in vaccination. Vikalp Shukla, AIR News, Raipur.
In Odisha, COVID-19 active caseload is fast approaching the 1 lakh mark. While the state reported 10,635 fresh cases, 8,541 patients have also recovered from the infection during the last 24 hours. More from our Bhubaneswar correspondent.
The state, on an average, has been adding about 3,000 new cases to its active caseload diary for the last couple of days. After factoring in those who are recovering from the infection, the state's active case count has already crossed 93,000. The state government has opened help desks with helpline numbers in all the major hospitals and district headquarter hospitals to share information about patients undergoing treatment for COVID-19 with their dear ones. Meanwhile, to address food scarcity among the stray cattle and dogs, an amount of 60 lakh rupees has been sanctioned from the Chief Minister's Relief Fund for the urban local bodies in the states. Girish Chandradas, AIR News, Bhubaneswar.
The Tamil Nadu government has imposed a lockdown from today to 24th of this month. The state has witnessed a sharp increase in fresh COVID cases last week. More than 28,000 fresh COVID cases were reported yesterday. More from our Chennai correspondent.
Chennai has witnessed 7,130 fresh cases yesterday, followed by Chengalpattu and Coimbatore, registering more than 2,000 cases. Kanchipuram, Tiruvallur and Madrid districts have registered more than 1,000 cases. The state cabinet led by Chief Minister M.K. Stalin met yesterday and discussed the measures to control it. The state health department has reopened the Siddha and Indian medicine clinics in the state for people with mild symptoms. Sale of remdesivir has been enabled at more than 6 districts. Transports between districts have been closed. E-registration has been made compulsory for those from other states and countries. The Chief Minister has nominated ministers to take responsible actions in 14 districts where the pandemic cases are on the rise. Joy, AIR News, Chennai.
Mizoram government has imposed a 7-day lockdown in the entire state beginning today. It will remain in force till 4 a.m. of 17th of this month. All offices of the state government, barring Health and Family Welfare, Home, Disaster Management and Rehabilitation, Finance, Information and Public Relations, Civil Aviation and District Administrations will remain closed during the lockdown. Intrastate and inter-village movements have been strictly prohibited except in some very essential cases. People of the capital and district headquarter towns will not be allowed to come out of their homes during the lockdown. The Union Territory of Ladakh will install 3 oxygen plants by the end of this month. New oxygen plants are proposed at Dras, Padum and Diskit, and equipment will be reaching Ladakh shortly. Ladakh LG R.K. Mathur reviewed the preparedness of Health Department for COVID handling, infrastructure, procurement of essential equipment and medicines. Apart from the 3 oxygen plants, NHPC agreed to provide a 2 500-litre per minute LPM oxygen plant for Kargil. A similar capacity plant is proposed to be set up at Leh to augment the oxygen generating capacity from the present 1000 LPM to 2000 LPM. LG Mathur emphasized that Ladakh must be fully equipped with a complete set of facilities, be it hospital beds, oxygen supply, medicines and additional manpower. Senior BJP leader Hemant Biswa Sharma will be sworn in as Chief Minister of Assam today. All COVID protocols will be followed during the swearing-in ceremony. Some chief ministers of northeastern states and senior leaders of NDA are expected to attend the ceremony. Mr. Sharma was unanimously elected the leader of BJP legislature party yesterday. His name was proposed by outgoing Chief Minister Sarbananda Sonowal. Dr. Sharma was holding several important portfolios, including health and finance, in the Sarbananda Sonowal government.
In West Bengal, 43 Trinamool Congress MLAs will be inducted into the Council of Ministers at a simple ceremony at Raj Bhavan in Kolkata today. While 24 MLAs will be inducted as cabinet ministers, 19 members will be sworn in as Minister of State. Many new faces will be seen in the Council of Ministers, including first-time MLAs like cricketer Manoj Tiwari, retired IPS Humayun Kabir and actress Birbaha Hansta. Even as technology is changing fast and popularity of visual medium is growing, but in Ladakh, radio is still a good old friend of public. People familiar with this part of the country know that even ceremonies take a pause for All India Radio News or some important programs, especially when Ladakhi news or agriculture programs are being broadcast. People gather to listen to it carefully. All India Radio News is only accessible medium in the sparsely populated Ladakh region. In tennis, world number 6 Alexander Suarez beat Mateo Beretini to clinch his second Madrid Open title. After beating top-seeded Rafael Nadal in the quarterfinals and fourth-ranked Dominic Thiem in the semi-finals, Suarez rallied to defeat Italian world number 10 Beretini 6-7, 8, 6-4, 6-3 in the final. In the men's doubles final, Marcel Granollers of Spain and Horacio Zaballos of Argentina defeated Nicole Matic and Mate Pajic of Croatia 1-6, 6-3, 10-8, claiming the doubles title yesterday. Earlier, Arina Sabalenka turned the tables on world number 1 Arshli Barty to win the women's title.
And now let us take a look at the weather forecast for today. National capital Delhi is expected to have partly cloudy sky with possibility of development of thunder lightning. Minimum temperature was recorded at 23 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be around 40 degrees. Mumbai will have partly cloudy sky. Minimum temperature was 27 degrees and maximum 35. Chennai may also witness partly cloudy sky. The minimum temperature was recorded at 28, maximum 36. In Kolkata, there will be partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. Minimum temperature 26, maximum will be around 37 degrees.
And now an overview of today's newspapers. Delhi lockdown extended till 17th of May. Metro services suspended. CM says positivity rate has dipped following curbs, writes The Hindu. Hindustan Times quotes CM Kejriwal as saying, "We can't let our guard down." Armed forces battle COVID as 200 test positive a day, reports The Pioneer. Haryana lockdown extended by a week, reports The Tribune on its front page.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Centre says augmenting availability of corona vaccine and completing vaccination of vulnerable groups are topmost priorities of the government. 150,000 doses of Sputnik 5 vaccine arrive in India. Russian Direct Investment Fund ties up with Indian companies for bulk production. Centre issues advisory on management of fungal infection amongst corona patients. Ayush Ministry adds 7 more centres for free distribution of Ayush 64 to COVID patients. Uttar Pradesh government to launch a massive vaccination drive of 18 to 44 age group today. Lockdowns and curfews extended in several states and union territories. Senior BJP leader Hemant Biswa Sharma to be sworn in as Chief Minister of Assam today. And in tennis, world number 6 Alexander Zverev beat Mateo Beretini to clinch his second Madrid Open title. And that's all we have in the morning news. Have a nice day.